we have tested every boundary possible. And so what we're reasoning out are things like this. How can something that feels so good be so bad? You know, why is that has to be bad? You know, like, so because we don't understand certain things, we conclude that, well, it feels good, so it should be good. Or we are way more progressive than 2,000 years ago, you know, or 3,000 years, or we're even more progressive than, you know, the beginning, when God created our first parents, Adam and Eve. And so we know better. Boundaries, you know, the minute you think about boundaries, they can be so restrictive, and they stop us from having fun and having a good life. You know, we have these kind of lies that are being given us. We need freedom to be truly happy. And I want to ask you, is it true? Do we really need freedom to be truly happy? I mean, think about it. We need certain freedoms, but when we take away boundaries, are we actually being freed up, or are we being set up to be snared and tangled into even less freedom than we had when we had boundaries? I think we're being set up. And I tell you, it's not easy to say, because when the enemy, Satan, the enemy of God, who is trying to corrupt our minds and our families and our lives, he doesn't come up and say, I'm going to set up a trap. He's going to make it really sweet for you, and then we think we need it, and he brings this. Now I want to give you an example of that. You know, we're going to read a lot of scripture, but let me just do this first because I think it's important. You know, fire is really good. God invented fire. I don't think anybody would disagree that, you know, if we suddenly didn't have fire or matches, you know, we'd have a real problem, right? We couldn't cook anything, and we couldn't warm ourselves up. It feels so, I know at home when I turn on this heater that just directs the heat, it's just so, oh, it's so nice, so good, right? And we can cook from it, we feel the warmth. And so it's perfectly good and acceptable and necessary to make a fire. I remember when I was a little boy in Italy, we had a big fireplace. That was the main thing. It heated up the house, we cooked the food in the fireplace, everything happened in this fireplace. This is when I was really little. It improved a little afterwards. And so fire is really important when it's contained in a safe place like a fireplace. You need fire. If you have a fireplace, no fire, I mean, that's no good either, right? Like, God doesn't make fireplaces and have no fire. He makes fireplaces for the intent that we would make a fire, we would be warm, we would experience good things from that and be able to enjoy life. I remember one time I came home, my boys were experimenting with matches, as many boys do, and I noticed all this pile of matches on top of a coffee table in our games room, and then I saw some half-burnt pieces of paper. And I started to, you know, I was alarmed. I said, well, what are you doing? Well, we're trying to make a fire. I said, you on the coffee table? In the middle of the living room? Or what? Like, are you crazy? Well, obvious, right? This is obvious, right? You can't make a fire in the middle of the living room. You're going to burn the whole house down. It's not good. Are you starting to get it?
Yeah.
Like, now they're going to go, why? You know, what's wrong, Dad? You made a fire. I said, yeah, but I made it in the fireplace. You're making it in the middle of the living room. You're going to burn the house down. Boundaries are good, right? To prevent us from getting into certain problems that we can get in. But unfortunately, we have chosen in a lot of ways to not listen to God and in these areas. And so we've made up our own rules and our own stuff based on what we think is good. And of course, it's not quite as clear-cut because we make fires all the time, but we don't see houses burning down. It takes a little longer. It takes a whole generation before you start to see real hard problems in our society and in individual lives. So fireplace is restrictive, but it's not negative. It's a positive thing. Here's the conclusion. Teaching our children in school how to have 6 safe sex, right? in high school, I think even in elementary school they're trying to do it, is like teaching kids how to make a fire in the middle of your living room, safely. That's what we're doing. That's basically what we're doing. You get that? It's ridiculous. It's not going to help. They have so many things. They say, well, we've got to teach them how to do this safely. What you're doing is teaching them how to make a fire in the middle of your living room. And somebody's going to get burned, eventually. And mostly, it's also the whole society is getting burned. Because a fire, what we should be teaching is a fire belongs in the fireplace. Now this is really deep, high-level teaching today. Fire belongs in the fireplace. That's what we need to teach them. And God designed certain things in a particular way for our good and for our safety. So that we won't burn up. So that we will not get into trouble. And he describes clearly, marriage is between two people, a man and a woman, who have made a promise. This is what we're going to read, right, in these verses. Marriage is between two people, a man and a woman, who have made a promise, which is like a covenant, to become one. And it's a lifelong promise. And it's serious. And it's not to be taken lightly.